In that case, we're live. Rowdy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, most welcome. Just for a bit of background, we met at Beyond's. I'm actually wearing the t-shirt, funnily enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, great merchandise. But this is basically going to be a plug for Beyond. But yeah, really cool gym. And they do these strongman classes, which my friend Steph recommended I join. And that actually revolutionized my idea on fitness as well. It really blew my mind and just my perspective on fitness. And these strongman classes were, well, they still are so much fun. They really take my mind to a different place. Obviously met you there and you're really strong. I think, yeah, in terms of like pound for pound, the weight you were moving and stuff, that was really cool to see. And you're a very hard worker, and I've noticed that as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, a bit of background, but yeah, I think you were telling me a bit about what you've been working on currently, but would love to know more about what you've been up to and also what's brought you to Bali. What's been your story so far?
Yeah, I mean, like, where do you want me to start? Like,
Wherever you like, buddy.
yeah, okay. Originally from New Zealand, spent a lot of time sort of growing up there. Then when I was 7, my parents split up. Went and lived in Cairns for 7 years, so I was about 14. Then I moved back to New Zealand and then still like did 1 year of high school in Cairns, which is in Queensland, Australia,
And was that with mother or father?
with my mum and my sister, yeah.
Mum and sister. Okay.
And then went back to New Zealand, done my high school years. I was just a class clown at high school, never really achieved too much, just there for the lols, basically. And then, yeah, I did my high school years. I think I dropped out when I was about 17. I started working, trying all sorts of different jobs. And yeah, and then I think I was about 20. We had the earthquake in Christchurch. It was a 9.2 earthquake. So I thought it was the end of the world. And at that time, right, 2010, we're talking, 10, 11, somewhere around there. And there was a lot of talk about, the end of the world and all that sort of stuff.
There's a lot of weird stuff going on.
There was a lot of weird stuff going on.
Like 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, so it happened. And yeah, I just thought it was like the end of the world. So it's about 2 or 3 a.m. We're finishing a night up on the town. We're sitting in the lounge.
How old were you at this point, sir?
That's, yeah, about 20 years old.
Cool.
And then, yeah, I remember there was me and some mates in the lounge room. It started happening. I thought a train was coming through the roof, like through the lounge room. It was pretty full on. Anyways, jumped outside, landed on the ground, got shook it off my feet, couldn't stand up. Ground was opening up around me. It was pretty crazy. All this stuff was coming through the ground, like all this it's like mud, like a really weird sort of like muddy texture.
Wow.
So it was pretty crazy. And then a couple of weeks after that, I decided to move to Melbourne because my mum and my sister had relocated to Melbourne. And then, yeah, I spent the last 11, 12 years sort of, in growing up in Melbourne. And then I'd been moving around sort of since. And then COVID happened. And I mean, Melbourne was the worst place in the world, right, for the lockdowns. So you could leave, I think, for 30 minutes a day, your house. And it was pretty brutal. Here I am, an extrovert, sitting in an apartment. My housemate had left to go moving with his girlfriend. And yeah, and then I was, yeah, I mean, that was a challenge in itself. There was a loophole. Australians couldn't leave Australia. Kiwis could. So the loophole was I could leave. So a friend of mine, or friends of mine were living here in Bali because I'd come here ever since I was 18. And yeah, I decided to move to Bali during COVID. I stayed here for about 6 months. It was amazing. Very tight-knit community, not many tourists. Like, life was pretty good. Unfortunately, not for the Indonesians, but obviously for the Westerners, it was pretty good. And then, yeah, I moved back to Australia for a bit. And then, was it last year? So that was 2023. I moved, started digital nomading again. And yeah, been here on and off. But Bali's, I guess, a good base for me. I'm still digital nomading. And yeah, that's a little bit about my, I guess, journey and where it came from, how I got here.
Yeah, that's wicked. There's a lot to unpick there. Let's rewind back to the start then. So I also was keen to touch upon parents divorcing at 7, because it's a weird age for that all to happen.
Yeah.
For me, my parents divorced when I was 6 years old, and you couldn't quite comprehend what was going on. I'm keen to explore how that affected your upbringing and that type of thing. I know you said you were like a class clown as well. I find it super fascinating how all this stuff influences the other. What was it like around that period when you moved to Cannes and that type of thing?
Yeah, massive adjustment. I think when you're 7, you kind of really don't know what's happening. You know, there's a lot of confusion there. And then the parents obviously have a lot of trauma between them, right? And then kids are used as collateral damage. And I think, not to blame my mum or my dad, but it's just like, it's natural human instinct, right? So I think they dealt with it the best way that they felt they could have at the time with the information that they had. And I mean, humans are complex creatures. We're very emotional. So yeah, I don't think at the time, I didn't really know what to think of it. I definitely knew that from once I moved to Cairns and as I started to get older, missing the father figure in my life definitely played a role. And then that was really tough. And then that's what brought me back to New Zealand, actually. I missed my dad and I wanted to spend time with him.
That's interesting. So you could tell there was something there. What do you think, what effect does that have, not having, I guess there's the whole, I guess it's just guidance really, isn't it? Just someone to ask for advice and someone to maybe pull you in if you are misbehaving at school or something.
Yeah. Me and my dad don't get along. Like, we don't speak at all now. Because after I moved back with him, we had a bit of a fallout that just didn't really work out. So there was like pros and cons with that. My dad has a twin, believe it or not. So me and my uncle are more close to me and my dad. So
Are they identical?
they are identical twins. So I definitely got the better one now.
Wow.
But me and my mum are very alike. I can see how now, reflecting back, I can see how the feminine role has had an impact on my life and not so much having the masculine role, you know, in my life. And I guess how I mean, it shaped me to who I am today, right? Like all these experiences shape you. So it's been fascinating to, I guess, see that and experience that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how you mention parents. Of course, we have to appreciate we have access to so much more information now, right? So we understand this idea of generational trauma and all of this stuff just putting onto the kid, and they are sort of trying their best as well. I do think, yeah, like you said, they did do the best with what they knew, right? But I think we now have an opportunity if we decide to have kids, right? It's like, okay, we're aware of all these patterns, so yeah, spend these years doing the work on yourself, making sure you get rid of all this baggage, right? And then when you bring a kid into the world, you know, it's almost stopping this generational stuff, stopping these patterns.
Yeah, dude, totally. I think now, you know, I have a beautiful partner and like definitely want to start a family with her and you know, and it makes you think a lot more. Yeah, so I'm 34 now, right? And I'm kind of glad that I've waited a little bit longer to start, you know, having children. Just because, I mean, my 20s, it was a wild roller coaster. I took my 20s to 30s as party time, right? And like, you know, going back to that separation, that definitely had an impact on my state of mind throughout my 20s, right? It was the live fast, die young mentality, escapism, you know, all these things, right? And my 30s, I had okay, cool. I've done that. Now it's time to lock in, right? And I had addictions, substance abuses, you know, like these sorts of things. So that definitely played a role. And then now that I'm 34, I've been sober for, I think, coming up to 800 days now.
Awesome.
Thank you. And
Wow.
the clarity, the things that I want to make sure that I have for my kids and protect them and provide for them and all the rest of it. And look, yeah, I've got to give credit to my parents. I think that they've done a great job, both of them, with what the resources that they had and the decisions that they made at the time. So it's like, you can't hold on to that, right? And look, a lot of us do. I mean, when you start, going in a child work and all the rest of it, and you're going, hey, like, what's in the closet? You realize how much of an impact that had. But it's just like, okay, cool. Like, it's a shoulda, coulda, woulda, didn't, right? It's an uncontrollable, right? All you can control is your future. So I think that that's really important, and it's more just like a learning curve, forgiving them and going, hey, okay, well, I'm learning from that, and I'll apply that to my future.
Yeah, you've touched upon something really interesting there. What people do once they have had that period of reflection, because this is what happens. We grow up, our parents are our role models, we do everything we tell them to, they're the people we should aspire to be, and that type of thing. And then we grow up, and then we start thinking critically, or we start getting other beliefs and ideas upon us, and then we can start looking back. And actually, that's when it can be quite a lot for a lot of people, because they're like, oh wow, this whole illusion that's what it is, it's an illusion, right? And you start questioning everything you see. And I think for a lot of people that can be very difficult, and they're in this weird space where they want to continue their self-development, but perhaps their family has these old views of them, right? Or an old way about doing things, and your values are no longer aligned. I think it's a really difficult period to navigate, I think. And I think you can either have a conversation, you can work through it, or I think you can just leave them and cut them out. I think a lot of people stay in the middle ground where they're unhappy with their relationship, but it's just very toxic perhaps, or it's not serving them. Comfortable, exactly. And I can't speak for everyone, but I don't think that seems like a long-term solution to me. It seems like you tried to go back to your dad, you experienced that and decided it wasn't for you, right?
Yeah. I think, look, everyone has unique experiences, but there are commonalities between a lot of individuals, right? And I think you should question everything in life.
I agree, 100%.
That leads to growth, and I think it's great to be comfortable, but comfortable is also complacency as well, right? Because I mean, look, I know, or I've seen and experienced friends and family and relationships that don't serve either of them, and it does get toxic. And then you go, well, like, why is this still a thing? So yeah, I mean, everyone's different. I find for me, it's just more so like, okay, cool, appreciate what it is. What does this person mean to me? Do they bring value? And you just question the relationship. What does that value look like? Is it worth fixing this, or is it worth just forgetting this?
Yeah, and I think there is probably something to be said for, okay, forgiving them if that is what you feel you need to do, but then just because you forgive someone doesn't mean you have to spend every day with them, right? You can just have an amicable relationship, but just you decide how much time you spend with that person. Perhaps that's another way to go about things.
Yeah, I call that loving from a distance. I have a lot of friends and family that I love from a distance. I might not see them for many years, right? But I can love them online, and that's enough for me. And then I have also friends, again, the friends and family, and I might have one interaction with them a year or a month or it depends. And everyone, it's small doses, right? And you got to find the time with people and all the rest of it. And I think, look, everyone in the world needs help. It doesn't matter who you are. We all go through problems. We all face problems, and it's up to us to have the solutions. But we all have the solutions for our own problems inside us. Yet I think that we just like to problem solve. Actually, I think the best way to answer this is we all have our own solutions, but yet we seek validation from others that that's the right solution to take.
Yeah, and it's validation or approval.
Well, that's it. It's exactly.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I also wonder, on another note as well, you mentioned there loving from a distance. That could just be okay, you know what? Our paths don't align at the moment. They used to align. There used to be a purpose for this, but hey, once a year I can wish them a happy birthday or something like that. And I think that will help a lot of people, because I think a lot of people are scared of letting go of relationships, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people have this nostalgic feel to them. I know I've been guilty of that myself, right?
Yeah, me too.
It's very easily done, and it doesn't need to be this emotional fucking breakup. I think you can just go, right, okay, you do your thing, I'll do mine, and that's it.
It's funny that we bring this up. So I've never been active on Facebook, and I think it was like a few months ago I went on there and I was like, "Oh, this is a weird playground," because it's like your friends, your high school friends, your family members, people that you had one night stands with, and people you've gone on benders with, and like it's like your old like my whole 20s was there, right? And I was like, "Wow, people have grown up, life's evolved." Oh wow, and you've shared experiences with these individuals at certain parts in your life, and they know that version of you, and you know that version of them. But people evolve, right? And they grow, and that's the whole purpose of life, So I think it's really funny that you see that, and then it's just like, you don't have to have hate towards them, because I feel like if you're having hate towards someone, it's like holding a burning coal, and you're just and you want to throw it at someone, but in order to do that, you have to throw it, and it's going to touch you, and it's going to burn you more than the other person.
That's important to think about as well, is that if someone has this idea of who you used to be, I think that can be quite damaging sometimes, right? If you're trying to evolve and grow. This is why I think a change of environment is so important. So you mentioned there you sort of move from place to place, right? And people do have this old idea. I remember I went to a school reunion. It was a songs event where you go and sing songs. I thought, okay, that's cool. I like singing songs, and okay, I don't speak to a lot of the guys now, but hey, I've got a spare ticket and I could invite this guy along, so that was cool. But then when we went in a group scenario, I found it really, I didn't like it at all, because people were interacting with me like they used to 5-7 years ago. And I got quite uncomfortable. I was like, well, I don't know who you're speaking to or expecting me to be, but that's just not me anymore. And so from that point on, I was like, fuck this, I can't do school reunions now. Maybe 30, 40 years later, when everyone's actually grown up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like it at all, mate.
Interesting.
Really strange. And it's funny, that idea of, you kind of have someone on Facebook who you met traveling maybe 5 years ago or something, and then you're just kind of watching each other's lives from a distance.
Yeah, it's one thing I actually tweeted about this the other day. One thing I'm really, look, everyone takes different paths in life, right? And there's no right or wrong. One thing I'm really grateful for is that I chose to leave my hometown, and I live a pretty unconventional life. I mean, you can relate, leaving your hometown, traveling the world, meeting cool people, having new experiences, and like there's a whole bigger world out there. Like New Zealand is a tiny fucking island, maybe like, I don't know, 5 or 6 million people now, right? And Christchurch, my hometown, a couple of 100,000 people, right? So it's just like a glorified country town, right? And it's just like now, I go on there and I see my high school friends doing well, and that's, they've got the house, they've got the car, they've taken the vacations. I'm not choosing that path, right? I don't want that path. I want freedom in life and other things that serve me. So it's just interesting to it's not a comparison, it's just a observation, if anything.
Yeah, people have their different ways about doing things.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck people want to do, that's not my business. Neither is it their business to comment on what I'm doing. If they want to, cool, you can. I probably won't give a shit, but do what you want. And it's just, the world just keeps on spinning. The wind keeps blowing, the trees keep going, the cars keep passing by. You watch around, the world's still going to go, whether you're still here, whether they're still here. The world's going to keep on going. And the world's working, well, some might argue this, but the world's just working just fine the way it is. People doing their own paths and stuff. I think, no need to interfere. And I also think you touched upon something there, this idea of people change, right? I think, again, it goes round to forgiveness. If you just hold on to something that someone has done 5 years ago, it's like, how's someone going to change? You want someone to be a better person, right? So why are you going to keep them accountable for what they did? Even 2 years ago, you're a different person. So that's something I'm really passionate about as well.
I think,
to an extent, right?
yeah, look, I agree with certain points there. The past year that I've gone through, I'm a founder, I have a software company, and we're a startup, so, we've just been working the past year, and I've been doing 100+ hour weeks for the majority of the year, and I've just been really just in my zone, right? I mean, I don't do too much socializing. I go to the gym, a couple of times a day, and then I'm like, that's my little gift for myself, my time. But This year's been really interesting because you talk about like, life going past, and I've just been so like in my zone working away. And then I've had these interactions more so in the later half of this year with friends, some I haven't seen in years, and catching up with them and hearing about their life and realizing how fast life's going. They're like, what have you been doing? And I was like, wow, I've just been in my zone, really just focusing on building this company. And it's just how it's really fascinating to see how it evolves. And people are like, yeah, well, I've got a kid on the way and I've got this. And I'm like, oh, wow, it's just like a reality shock, if anything. And it was a really interesting feeling to experience. Not that it's like, it's not the observation that, oh, well, everyone's so much further ahead or anything like that. It's just more so like, oh, well, life is still going. I'm doing all these things, and you just, like, my focus zone is that. And if you're over here, I can't see you and I'm not paying attention to you, right? And that's one thing I don't really do too much is like watch and keep up to date with the Joneses, right? It's like, that's your life, and
Oh, no.
if it paths cross in the future, like that's great, and we can catch up and all the rest of it. I think it's awesome, but it's just been this, really fascinating feeling to experience.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one because I even look back on the last 3 months or so of Bali or however long I've been here, and I look back at those 3 months and I think, okay, I've made some fantastic memories, but I think all the joy has just been in the present moment and my daily routine. But then if you ask me, right, pick out some moments, I'm sure I can, but I think when you're just locked into that routine, you are in your own little world a little bit, and then you're like, okay, well, what have I actually done? I know I've done really cool stuff and I've loved every moment, but I don't think I could describe a lot of the days to you, to be honest. I know I've had my routine, I've done jiu-jitsu and I fucking love that. I've gone to a cafe and worked on the podcast and all these other type of things. I've really been enjoying that. And then, I'll go to a strongman class, or I'll do a mobility class, or I'll see my girlfriend, or we'll go out for dinner, and they've all been amazing. But when you're so focused in your own life, I think it's not like you have less memories, but it's just like, that's just, when you live the life that you love, there's something really interesting about that.
I think life's all about experiences, right? And that's why I think the true rich people are the ones who have freedom and able to like live in the moment and experience all these different things. And that's why, going back to the leaving your hometown, I was like, there's so much culture, there's so many beautiful people to meet in the world, and you just never know who you're going to meet and what you're going to experience, right? And it's like, I had a friend that I knew, he died recently from a heart attack, 23 or 24, something, I think around there. Anyways, like unexpected, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, man, I've lost a couple of friends now, but when they happen, those moments, you're just like, fuck, wow. Like, I'm glad that I'm out trying different things. And like, you do get stuck in your routine, and I understand that. But look, I would rather like go and take a lot of risks and try new different things, travel around, meet all these like cool people and experience these moments than just be like, all right, cool, I'm stuck in my little comfort bubble, and I've got my nice car and my nice house, and that's like way too safe for me.
Yeah, it's taking that path, or the uncomfortable path, just the unpredictable nature of it. I remember reading something the other day. They were talking about, live every day as if it's your last. But what does that actually mean? And when you dig deeper into that, the idea actually goes, well, it means turning up, working on your shit and just being in that routine almost, because you're just showing up for yourself, rather than just, I think everyone has this idea of, right, you have one last day on earth, so you've got to do all this wild shit, you've got to go skydiving. But actually, if it was your last day, I think the message there, when I looked deeper into it, was, right, it means you're showing up. You're not just staying in bed all day, but you're turning up for yourself and you're meeting people and I think it's just, again, just going out and exploring and doing what you've been assigned to do, I suppose. Yeah, there's quite a lot to unpack there. I was keen to go back as well, because you mentioned, you've spent a long period sober now, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very weird one, isn't it? Your 20s, and even a bit before then. I feel like a lot of people get introduced to drugs because of, again, whether it's culture or the nightclub scene, whatever it may be. And there's this line, right? It's like, are you using it to have fun? Because everyone, well, or a lot of people at first, they think, oh, I'm just doing this because it's fun. It's just a Saturday night. I'm just enjoying it. But then I feel like there's this other side where you're actually numbing something. In your case, did you ever reflect on that, or did you think you were having fun at first, or when did you start realizing, okay, this is something which I'm using for the quote-unquote wrong reasons?
Yeah, I think it was more so in the later end of my, like, I definitely thought it was fun. I was definitely living for the weekend when I was younger. And yeah, I just thought, oh, I wouldn't be here. You know, I would die somewhere in my 20s, right? Like, if I'm being completely honest, that's probably the thought process that I had. I was like, live fast, die young. And yeah, I just thought drugs were amazing, partying. I mean, I built a persona about, being rowdy, this rowdy individual, right? And big shoes to fill, because everyone's like, oh, you're rowdy. Like, come on, let's get rowdy. Like, well, fuck, I've got to live up to it now. Yeah, it was like, I definitely thought it was fun. And then coming into the later 20s, it's like, people are doing things. I was always great with my career and like progressing, but combining the two, and then at the end, I think I was like 28, 29, I had a big cocaine addiction, and I was using it like nearly every day. I think it was like 1 to 2 grams a day, and then in the weekend maybe 10x that, right? Like it was a lot. And then your Thursdays turn into Fridays, your Mondays turn into Sundays, like, and it just becomes a big blur. So I did that for a year, got into a bit of trouble, managed to get out of it. Was still drinking, but drinking was the trigger, and then finally gave up the alcohol, and then life's just been incredible ever since. Right. More purpose, if anything, right? That sort of like filled that void.
Yeah. So was it identifying alcohol as the thing that triggers?
Oh yeah, definitely. Look, and I love alcohol, and when I say that, like I love wine. Wine's beautiful because it tells a story. I love the origins and the taste and all the rest of it. And you can have a great time on wine. You can have a bad time too, right, if you drink too much red wine. But yeah, it was definitely the trigger. And it was just like, now that I had purpose, nothing can get in the way, right? So it's like, you take one night off for a couple of drinks. I'm 34. It takes me like a week to recover,
Mate, I stopped drinking a year ago, but even before then, I noticed the difference even between 22, 23 and 18, 19. Even then, I noticed the difference. I can only imagine as you get older how you start to feel that. I mean, it just makes sense to me. It's like, why wouldn't you want to wake up every day feeling at your best?
Oh, man, it's amazing. Like every day now, I get up at 4 a.m., right? And then I go to the gym in the morning, 6 a.m., and it's just like, it's beautiful. Sun, sweat, like have a coffee, like everyone's smart, like it's a vibe. You just get in the best mindset for the day, and then and then finish the day with a nice fucking sweaty workout as well, and you're just like, you feel alive.
And you gravitate towards your people in your environment, right? So if everyone else is living super healthily like they do here on the whole, you're gonna be influenced by that. And I just think back home, again, if drinking is your thing and you like going to the pub, cool, do that. But do you enjoy doing it, or are you just doing it because that's all you know? And I think just questioning that again, just questioning your reality. Okay, do I really enjoy these people I'm hanging out with? Do I really enjoy having a shit night's sleep and feeling like ass the next day? Maybe you do. Maybe you do. But I just think it's worth having that conversation with yourself and thinking, right, if I wasn't in this environment, if you haven't traveled the world yet, just get a one-way ticket to anywhere.
Yeah.
And just see what happens to your belief system.
It's the best.
Yeah, you get outside of that box. Super important. Were you escaping something? I think you might have alluded it.
Oh yeah, earlier. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, like I said to you, like reflecting back on the trauma with the parents splitting up, spending time away from my dad and all the rest of it, there was definitely some form of escapism there, right? I don't have all the answers, still learning and growing, but definitely. Look, I'm glad that chapter's sort of done its course, and I'm glad that I've done it sooner rather than later, right? I mean, like, I think I started drinking maybe like 16, 17, right? So there's a good like 13, 14 years of partying. So I gave it a really good crack. So I'm really proud of myself for doing that. But at least it's like out of my system now. And I think it's like people say, it's like you can use your 20s for partying and then your 30s and onwards for building, or you can swap the both. Now, my uncle always said this. He goes, your teenage and your 20s are the best moments of your life, right? Because you're young, you're experimenting, you're trying new things, everything's fucking cool. And you're like, fuck yeah. So I'm glad that I got that done. And there's nothing wrong with building in your 30s. There's nothing wrong with building in your 40s, 50s, even 60s. My uncle started his first business when he was 60 and it's thriving, right?
Wicked.
So I think that's fucking really cool. And there's a lot of pressure on us, especially the young ones, Gen Z and all the rest of it. But cool, you're 18, you've got to be a millionaire, you've got to have an online business, you've got to have everything figured out. You're not. And that's like, that is the key, to not have it figured out. Go and experiment, try new things, and find out who you want to be.
Yeah, that's the message that keeps on coming up in these podcasts, right? Just keep on trying shit. So, how old are you again now?
34?
34. Let's rewind back when you were 24, 25, 26, 27. Were you worrying about what your 30s were going to look like? Or
No.
Not at all?
No, definitely not.
So you weren't even thinking about
Oh, dude,
your
I
future?
didn't think I'd make it. Yeah, I
You
literally,
weren't- wow.
I was just thinking like, cool, just keep going, you know? And then, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd always been an entrepreneur and tried little side hustles, but I definitely took the safer route in my 20s and was working for people and like climbed the corporate ladder. But it was just more so like living for the week. And look, everyone in my career, they knew what I was up to in my 20s, right? I was pretty vocal about things, shared probably too much on social media at the time, and I was just having fun, right? There was one of my employers, I'm still good friends with them now. Mate, I used to rock up to work, still hungover, still going for the night before. I got fired and rehired, I think 2 or 3 times.
What, from the same...
From the same job.
You were just too valuable.
Look, I mean, dude, this guy, he understood. He's like, look, you got a lot of potential. I know you're probably going to do something really amazing in your life. And he goes, I get it. I've been there. I've done it. You know, I'm just trying to give you an opportunity. And you know, like how long's a piece of string? You keep going. All right, cool. Yeah. And you make mistakes, right? But I think that's the most important thing. I love the theory, fuck around, find out, because it's like everyone's doing that, right? And it could be positive. It could be negative. But either way, it returns a positive because you're going to learn from your experiences and hopefully take those lessons into, you know, the next stage of your life.
Yeah. Like you said, I think it is about just trying as much as you can, whether it's a different sport, a new job, whatever
Yeah.
it might be, new country, new friends, new types of people.
Dude, throughout my years, I've tried so many different businesses, so many different ventures. And like, again, life is all about experiences. Right? I used to paint furniture like when I was in my teenagers, right? I used to do graffiti. What else did I do? I worked in a panel shop. I used to be a carpentry apprentice. I was a chief marketing officer for a large mobile gaming company, right? So like I've tried so many different ventures and I'm like, this is cool. Like there's so many lessons here. And look, a lot of those jobs I hated at the time or I had to do just to get by. But yeah, it's like life's all about experiences. Would you rather just wake up and do the same job for the rest of your life? Some people are happy with that and like that's great for them. Not me. I want to try like a lot of things. And now I'm lucky. I have purpose. I have a venture that, you know, I'm very much obsessed with and it's going extremely well. And I've fallen in love with that craft. And it's at the cusp of technology and that's going to be the future. That's something that I'm really excited about. But then you reflect back and all those experiences, good or bad, they shape you into the person that you are today. And they give you the skills that you need to action what you need to take care of in the future as well.
100%. And you've given the work example. I think that can also apply to your personal relationships as well and how you evolve. And you've got to experience different types of relationships, whether they're amicable or romantic. Figure out what works for you. And you can only do that by, again, going through not so good relationships and going through not so good situations, right?
One thing, I've got this weird obsession with the bad times. I think I really love the bad times. I love sitting in the trenches and I somewhat like being, you know, having my back against the wall in certain situations, especially in life. There's just so many valuable lessons there, and it's probably a healthy, unhealthy obsession. But I'm just like, I've had friends who have backstabbed me. I've had lovers who have done the wrong thing, cheated on me, like all these things. And I'm just like, now I look back, I'm like, fuck yeah, like so grateful for all of those people because I learned so many lessons. And, now I can be like a great partner for my friends, my business partners, all the other relationships with my family and everyone, right? So I think there's so much more valuable lessons in the shit times. Look, the good times are great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not opposed to the good times. I want more good times, but the bad times, they allow you to think deeper. They allow you. It's fight or flight, right? So yeah, I've got a really weird, unhealthy obsession with the bad times.
That's really cool. I think there's so much beauty in it as well. The important thing for me is that you look upon these instances and you reflect on them. You have to reflect on them. If you take it for what it is and attach your emotion to it, of course it's going to be fucking shit. I wonder if you recognized or took responsibility for all the shit stuff at the time, or whether it's taken age for you to reflect on those things and realize the lessons that you learned.
I think each situation has been unique. I've been in relationships where I didn't want to break up the person, but I knew I had to. And you're like, oh shit, I don't really want to do this, but I know that my future's not with this person. And like, yeah, there's pros, but the cons outweigh the pros, and it's quicker to rip off the Band-Aid as much as those conversations suck. But I know that you make the right decision, right? And then now I found, my partner who I, want to spend the rest of my life with, and I'm like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. I found the one, as they say, right? So like those situations are unique. And then I've had situations where, friends have backstabbed me or something like that. And instead of reacting and being like, cool, I'm going to punch your head in, I just like look at them dead in the eye and I'm like, awesome, like, thank you, like, forgive you. Because I'm like, cool, these aren't my people, right? And that's what I mean. It's just like, if someone does something bad to me, that's fine. Like, they're the one that got to live with that, not me. I'm detaching myself from you. You're not my people. You don't deserve my time. You don't deserve my energy. And I'm going to go and find these other people. And I have, right? And then now, I'm surrounded by incredibly intelligent, loving, kind, caring, amazing human beings that achieve so much more in life and elevate me as well as them, right? So I'm like, and then, like, I don't know what those people are doing because I don't give a fuck. But I'm just like, man, I probably know that if I was still with those people doing the same shit, we'd probably still be doing the same shit, right? So
you'd have a lower quality woman, you'd have a lower quality job, or that stuff's just so important, and that's why I think if anyone's listening and they're breaking away from all of that noise and they are quite lonely, because I think it can be very lonely.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I think loneliness is like, solitude is one of the most important things in life, right? Especially for men. Dude, there's some magic. This is why I love getting up so early, especially like 4 a.m. And I used to get up and it used to be pitch black, like living in Melbourne, right? And I used to walk around the botanical gardens in my place. I was the only one on there, right? 4 a.m. in the morning. It's dark, it's cold. Some days it was raining. But it was like, I didn't have anyone, lived by myself, like really like lonely. But that's like who you find out who you are, right? And you become, it's the analogy of peeling back the layers of an onion and you're going, okay, cool. Who am I? What do I want to do? And that's why COVID was one of the best things that's ever happened to me, because me as an extrovert, thriving in social settings, I used to do a lot of, partying and socializing and all the rest of it. And that used to fill up my cup. And then here I am in a room during a pandemic, the worst lockdown in the world. You could only leave your house for 30 minutes a day. And there's obviously a lot of noise. And then I was like, well, who am I? What do I want to be? What do I want to do? Where have I been going wrong? And you start to go deep. And I think, look, everyone's got to do that. Look, some people can't handle it. And they, and I understand that. But I feel like it's an important step that we all need to take in the evolution of life. Look, I mean, loneliness is growing at such an exponential rate. It's fascinating. When we started my company, we were building a bit of context. We create interactive AI agents of people, right? And you've seen firsthand what we do. But our initial direction late last year was in the companion space. So the problem of loneliness was like something that we were trying to solve, right? And that was really fascinating because you were like, understand how human psychology works and what human desires and all the rest of it and how it impacts people. And then now you have AI companions and how they replace people and what's our relationship with AI look like in the future. And I mean, believe it or not, it's becoming more and more intimate with humans and AI, and it's going to become more and more intimate. And there's already people having full-blown relationships. There's already people having full-blown. Some people are getting married to AI. These are. I know we digressed a little bit, but the loneliness problem. I think it's like very, very important, and it's just like going down that track with what we've been building with Twin Tone. We've seen firsthand. Like I've experienced firsthand what it feels like, and then you start looking at the other data on how other people experience it and how they deal with it.
Yeah, it's really funny how my perspective has shifted as well. Because what happens is, I think, those sort of younger or early 20s, you see other people going out and you're thinking, oh, why wasn't I invited to this? And, oh, you got fear of missing out and that type of shit. And then I think that just sort of, after a while, it just sort of vanishes. And when you start loving your own time and loving yourself, suddenly it's like you'd rather be reading, or you'd rather be, for me, it was like DJing, or I'd rather be doing jiu-jitsu, or, oh, cool, I get to spend more time with my dad, or that type of stuff. And once you start, but I think it all has to start intrinsically as well. And it was interesting, you mentioned before as well, you were looking at your social scenario and they were kind of giving you that almost like validation, right? Well, that's what you thrived upon. But when you take a moment and just sit intrinsically, it's like people saying, oh, I don't like my own company. Mate, learn to fucking love it.
Yeah.
Really sit with yourself and just monitor what's going on. Start getting a journal out and just monitor. If you've never done that before, just sit there and just write down everything that happens in your brain. You'll start working out so much shit about yourself and you'll start putting the pieces together. And we're so fortunate, mate. We're in the age of unlimited accessible information. If you
it's an abundance of information, right?
It's incredible, right? If you want to work on any aspect of yourself, you can ask, you would know more than anyone. You can ask AI, give me 10 books I should read if I want to improve this about myself. I feel lonely. Here are 10 great books. Okay, they've got 5-star reviews. Let's go for that. One book could change your life. And we just have the power to do that. And this is why I'm so passionate about self-development, because you have the power to change your life, but no one's going to change it for you. You know, no one went up to Rowdy and was like, hey, mate, you know, let's work with you. Let's do this. You had to do it yourself, right?
Yeah, dude. I mean, when you gamify the process of self-development, that's when it becomes fun, right? Dude, early in the morning, I mean, not every day now, but, when I first started sort of, in my 30s, started, flip the switch, just like listening to, Andy Frisella or David Goggins in the morning and just like programming your mind. I mean, some mornings I'll still do it. It's like listen to a motivational podcast and just like, it just wakens that beast inside you. And if you gamify that whole process, it's like people play Grand Theft Auto or like The Sims or something, right? It's like, well, you can do that in real life. It's like, oh, you're going to get the great job. Well, fuck, go and do that in real life. Like, oh, you want to get the 6-pack? Well, control your diet and do that in real life. Like, cool, you want to start the business? Well, cool. I mean, go and do it. It's insane what like you can do. And then once you start gamifying that process, then it becomes really fun, right? And that's when you're like, okay, cool. Hey, now I need to spend time and work on my relationships and take that to the next level and spend time with my parents and
You can just keep on evolving,
Yeah,
man.
exactly. It's exciting.
It's endless. And that's why even just reading books I'm so passionate about, because why wouldn't you? We have access to an abundance of information, like I mentioned. In your case, when did your self-development journey start? When did you start thinking, was it around the time where you stopped drinking alcohol, and what made you do that?
I would say it'd probably be in my later 20s. I started like, working out more and like, I guess getting a glimpse of it, but then sharing motivational stuff online. And because I was a party boy, a lot of people wouldn't take me seriously. And yeah, it wasn't until I think, late 20s when I started sort of like 28, 29 maybe, and into the 30s when I started taking it seriously. And yeah, and just becoming relentless and obsessed, and really started tapping into my power. And I was like, oh wow, I can do a lot more than, you sort of set these limits up here, and then when you start going over them, you're like, okay, well that makes you think a bit further and going, okay, well what else can I do, And then I started like, well, not overreaching, but just trying more things, running more experiments. And life is a bunch of experiments, right? And you're going to try certain things. Either way, the more experiments you run, the more results that you get. And then you can create more decisions based off those results. And I think that's really fun and fascinating. So yeah, I would say like in late 20s, early 30s, and then now I'm just obviously obsessed with it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much to learn from your story, I think. Just the way in which you approach life now. And again, it's that change of mindset, right? Just looking at those periods of darkness or challenging periods as, okay, great, this is a wake-up call. Let's see what we can do about this. And you start learning more about yourself. And that's what I think people mean when they say just enjoy the process, because you're just endlessly learning. Like everything's meant to happen, right?
Life is beautiful because the longer you stay in the game, the harder it gets and the more reward there is. And I think that's the beautiful thing about life. Look, life's really short, but at the same time, it's quite long. It's only short when we start reflecting. We're like, shit, that went really quick. What the fuck have I been doing? Like, and you start like, oh shit. But you can hold on to, a lot of that can lead into depression too, right? People say that if you reflect too much, if you live in the past, that starts that depression. If you think too much about the future, that causes anxiety. If you live in the present, well, that is the present. That's why they call it the present, right? It's a gift. And you're like, okay, cool. And that's what makes you happy. Like today, I've done my workout, had my coffee, sat there in the sun, and I was like, this is amazing, right? If I started thinking about what I was doing fucking, 5-10 years ago, and I was doing all these drugs and partying and all the rest of it, I'm like, well, okay, cool. That's going to make me probably think about the wrong things. I say this to people. This is like one of my, little life hacks is in the morning when you wake up, do not listen to music, right? And I only usually listen to music in the evenings. And the reason for it is music is associated to different experiences or memories in our life. And when you start listening to those songs, you might listen to that song that you and your ex-girlfriend used to be your song, right? And then when you think about when that song plays, you start thinking about that memory, and then that could cause you to think about, fuck, how is she? Maybe should I reach out to her? And brings out all these feelings, right? And that could fuck up your whole day if you've got a lot on, right? So this is why I say to people, it's like, when you wake up in the morning, just attack. And this is why I used to program my mind with like these motivational podcasts and whatever, because it's just like, wake up, let's fucking go. Attack, 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 attack. And then you're programmed, right? And you smash out all the work in the morning, and then you can do more in the afternoon. But I always try and set up my days. Do the most important stuff in the morning, and then in the evening, I like to meditate or listen to music, and then sort of start to unwind.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I started doing meditation and stuff earlier in the day because otherwise I would not do it later. So that's something to think about. But I also think there's a beauty in just waking up and just working straight away.
Yeah. You accomplish so much more. And then you're like, fuck, it's 7 a.m. I've done everything. You know? I mean, for me, I wake up early, but I mean, like most people, it's just like, hey, it's lunchtime. Like, holy shit, I've done awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, although then again, even last night, mate, I found this great place that was open till 2 a.m. and then I was working. I ended up, and I was just in work mode, mate. I was working till 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, wow.
And I just got into such a flow state. So I don't know if that's basically my body saying, right, this is your optimal time. I don't know, but I just was getting so much shit done. It's funny with the music. David Goggins, I think, was saying he doesn't use music because it's an unnecessary release of dopamine.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. My shaman, when I did an ayahuasca retreat, I remember I was asking him, can I listen to some music? Because the whole point, and I had some books as well, but the whole point is that you spend time in nature alone and you journal. And I was like, what about music? He said, be very careful, because even in today's world, the amount of times where we listen to music and we have no idea the effect it's having on our subconscious.
Yeah.
He used the Adele example. It's that Adele song which is like,
Someone like
I'll
you.
never find someone like you. And if you're just listening to that, your subconscious is listening to that, right? And that's why they even say with the subconscious, don't joke about yourself saying, I'm such a this today, or I'm being such a this, because your subconscious will listen to it. We've got to be so careful what we're putting into our brain, right?
Diet isn't just what you eat and drink every day. It's what you consume, right?
Yeah.
The content on the internet, the music that you listen to, like there's a lot that goes into that. People think, it's what, I've got to, eat my chicken and rice and all the rest of it. It's like, no, dude, it's what like brain rot and all the rest of it. It's just like, you really got to be careful about what you consume. And that's like diet as a whole.
Big time. On the subject of music, we have a tradition on this podcast where we ask the guest for their favourite song at the moment, which is not listened to in the morning.
Yeah. I like power ballads. You know who I love? I love Celine Dion.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's a bit out there. Everyone's like, all right. Yeah, dude, I love my power ballads. Celine Dion, I think she's amazing. That song, like, just her voice, hitting those high notes. No one sings like that anymore these days.
Wait, Power Balance is the name of the song?
No, sorry. Celine Dion, That's the Way It Is.
That's
right?
the way it is. Okay.
It's a great song.
And what do you mean by Power Balance?
Power ballads are like songs from the
ballads.
Ballads, 70s,
for
80s, something like that, some even in the 90s, but it's the old school songs that they just have a lot of meaning and a lot of power behind them, right? Meatloaf, AC/DC, Metallica, like these big bands, big songs that really, have that power behind them. And Celine Dion, poor thing, she's lost her voice now, right? She can't sing anymore. And yes, it's just the way she sings those high notes. I don't know. There's something very magical about it that definitely lights my soul up. So yeah, Celine Dion, that's the way it is.
It's different. All right, my man. It'll be added to the Growth Voyage playlist. I'll be giving it a listen.
Yeah, awesome.
Mate, this has been really, really cool. I love your outlook on life. And yeah, so much to learn, so much motivation there for people listening and for myself too. Where can people find you? Where can they, whether it's Instagram or your company, your project that you're working on?
Yeah. Yeah, so company is Twintone, so twintone.ai is our website. You can find us across socials at twintone.ai. Myself personally, at Rowdy Mode, so ROWDYMODE, Rowdy Mode. Instagram, Twitter, most active on sort of Twitter. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Are you in Rowdy Mode now?
Yeah, so I renamed it Rowdy Mode. I guess it's a play on founder mode. So Paul Graham, founder of Y Combinator, he wrote an essay on founder mode, which was essentially on Brian Chesky from Airbnb and how he conducts himself and basically his behaviors and sort of, how he scaled Airbnb, basically. Called it founder mode. And then my play on it was Rowdy Mode, which is the way that I do things and how I action things. So that's why I call it Rowdy Mode.
I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cheers, Rowdy.
Awesome,
Appreciate
bro.
you.
Thank you.